G'day guys, Mark here and welcome back to the Iron Empire. Now in this episode, we take on some mini tubs on the UC Torana. It's time to get some decent tread under these guards. Now, if you're not a Torana guy, a Holden guy, it doesn't matter. This method that I'm gonna be taking on today is pretty uniform no matter what car you drive. If you wanna get a bit more tread under your guards, you need to check this out. Let's go. Alright guys, so we are about to undertake one of the biggest modifications on this car that has ever happened really since we've done the resto. When we fitted out these wheels and tyres, we got recommended to run these wheels, which is it's a Convo Pro ripoff. It's a 15 by 8.5. I can't remember the back spacing, so don't question me on that. But the problem we have is that the offset, the diff width doesn't allow for a very good offset on a Torana, which is pretty common for a lot of cars. The offset is what kills you. I've probably got like 30 or 40 mil behind the tire, but I've got nothing here. So we had to roll these guards here and it still does scrub around bends. We want to get a better tire on this thing. We've only got a 215 60/15. Now, although a 215 is stretched onto the 8.5, it does look pretty good, especially under this little car. Obviously, they're only a small compact size car, but we want to get some proper meats under this thing. So we can't go inboard any further without shortening the diff. Now, if we're going to shorten the diff, we may as well make the most of what room we do have. And there's about another 25 mil or an inch between the guard that the factory gave us and the chassis rail. So we're going to start looking at modifying the arse end of this thing, mini tubbing it, and going right to the chassis rail. Hopefully we'll be able to get another 50 mil worth of tire on this car. Okay, now moving underneath, we now can have a look at the second reason why we want to run some tubs on this car, or while I'm going down that track right now. So underneath you'll see here, we have a little banjo, also known as a bango, because these things were made of glass. This is a 6-cylinder diff designed for a 4 or a 6-cylinder maximum that come out in this Torana. Now it has a smaller, basically the diffs were never great, even though there was a beefier version for a V8, which had a bigger yoke and also I think a bigger maybe tail shaft, definitely had different unis. But regardless, they were all pretty weak. So this thing is still running the 6-cylinder diff and it is actually amazing it's still surviving, because we have given this thing a little bit of a hard time from time to time. And it does have a little bit of free play. It has a lot of play in that, I don't know, it doesn't sound the best. And it's only a matter of time before it goes bang. So we've decided we're going to beef this thing right up and we're going to go with a True Track. Now True Track is basically a locker style LSD, and they are available for a massive range of diffs. So essentially you can turn this pissy little banjo into a diff easily going to be covering 500 horsepower. But if I'm going to be doing that, I'm going to go down that path, I may as well do the shortening of the diff and a better wheel fitment all at once. So it's one of those things, we didn't want to double handle everything. The car doesn't necessarily need all this stuff. The diff will definitely come. So while we're at it, we may as well kill two birds with one stone. So it is going to be a pretty big exercise and a pretty bloody expensive one, because not only are we going to go with the True Track center, we're probably going to go with billet axles, which is obviously overkill for the 253, but I know that once we do that this arse end is never going to break no matter what we do with this car, because this thing is never going to have more than 500 horsepower. So I'm going to start digging in and see what we got to play with. So moving underneath, I've already decided that there's too much talking in this video. All we're going to do is go to the chassis rail. I have drawn it out with some white marker. Hopefully you can see that in there. It's just a slither The only reason we're going to go to the rail is because above here is the spring perch anyway, and if I want to go beyond that, that is just big time work. I'm not prepared to go down that path, so we're just going to take this little slither out and do our best with working to the rail. All right, so you should see right up in here, I've created a nice little slither. I've tapered it off the best I can, so I've got the right shape. It should flow with the contours of the existing wheel well anyway, but it's just going to create more space at the bottom where it does seem to taper inward because of the chassis rail. Up top, it seems to widen up like a funnel, or it gets bigger. So now it's just a matter of smacking this thing with a hammer and see how far we can stretch it before I start splitting it. Hopefully I can get away without splitting it, but if I do, I'll put a few pie cuts in there and create some space. We're grinding. Okay, so it's the next day and we've basically got the rear side of one tub tacked in place, and there's obviously a little bit of finessing, but basically we know where we're at now. We're now going to move to the front half of this rear tub, but in doing so, I've got to go inside and see what I'm going to be cutting into, because it is going to be interfering with the seat. Maybe, hopefully it doesn't interfere. The cutting blade will certainly interfere, so I need to at least remove the back seat, see what we've got to deal with there, and then cover it all up so we don't destroy the nice clean interior here, and then get cut. We want to try and get at least one side buttoned up today. Quick release. All right, guys, so where we are at with this first tub, the mock-up slash, not a mock-up at all, we're going all in, but this is basically the test and tune this side here. So the front, I've now got that in fiberglass filler. I then went over with a little bit of top filler and just buzzed it out. A very rough, half-hearted smooth out with the orbital sander, just following the contours, and whatever it ended up with is what we ended up with. Doesn't matter, because by the time I give this a coat with some stone guard, that inner guard is going to look like new and you'd never know that it's been modified. We are intending to have the same result back here. As you can see, it's got a bit of a spoggy shit weld back here. It's a bit messy, but by the time I knock this part round a bit further, weld this in, and then once again, a bit of fiberglass filler and smooth it all out, those tubs are going to be absolutely mint. Now, it looks like we've probably gained at least an inch of clearance into that chassis rail, making use of what is already there without going through the chassis rail, because that's another level I don't want to go to. Now, the next thing we're looking at is the shock. I've just pulled the shock out. I don't even know what the hell this is out of. I reckon it might be out of like an F truck or something. Something far too large for this car, and they are a monster shock. Like, look at the barrel on that thing is huge. So at the moment, the reason I've been running those, I don't know how I ended up with them, but when we done the ride height in this car, we got king springs in it. I had to cut like 2 or 3 coils out of it, something ridiculous, because it was still sky high. And at the moment, it sits really nice, although they are lowered springs, mind you. That was just the lowest available, and it was not low. So going back to what I said, so the shocks, I don't know where they come from, why they're in the car, but they are way too heavy duty for the car. But at the moment, that's been a bit of a saving grace, because these wheels are so tight to the outside of this guard. The arse end being so rigid is stopping these guards from just getting destroyed, basically. So I did always intend on going a smaller, more comfortable shock once we get those wheels inboard, which is what we're doing now. Don't know what happened with my voice just then. Going inside here, it's probably a bit hard to see, but you can see the shock point is there, which is right in the middle of this wheel well. By the time you get that there, you're losing a couple of inches at best of usable space. Now, I have seen all sorts of things, people moving the shocks into the boot, basically, and massive amount of work. I think that I'm going to modify this lower bracket right here. We're going to halve that. I did make a little bit of a mark there. You can see that little mark stripe there. I'm going to cut this bracket in half, shift this whole mounting point inboard. We're going to gain about an inch of that by doing that. And we're going to try and get that as close to the inner guard without modifying and going inboard at the top end. I'd rather modify just the bracketry at the bottom. And also the off-the-shelf Torana shocks, heavy-duty ones. The barrel on them is like fucking 15 mil skinnier than this. So we're going to gain another 15 mil there at least. So we're going to be well and truly 30, 40 mil of clearance by doing that. And I think that's a fair compromise. Now, that's going to take a little bit of work, a little bit of farting around. I've got to get shocks and stuff. So I'm going to keep doing that behind the scenes. But one thing I want to show you guys that's really important to note, that I think a lot of people don't realize, the rim size makes almost more difference than the tire size than they think. So most people think, oh, what size tires you got in the car? Well, what size rims have you got in the car, more importantly? Now, this Torana has 15 by 8 Convo Pros with a 215. So they're pretty stretched. Not really what you want to do on a muscle car, but look at the thickness of this tire. Here it is right here. That there is a 215. And to be honest with you, the stretch doesn't actually look that bad, but it is sitting next to a 245. Now, if you actually look at this, honestly, if I got a tape measure on the width of that, then obviously the 245 is sitting on its own. That 215 is almost actually thicker than the 245 because of the stretch. It's amazing how much difference it makes. So the rim size is, I believe, more important than the tire size. But if we were then to put a 245 on that 8.5, it's gonna be huge for a Torana. Now, a lot of people in the forums always state what they can fit under their carts, almost like a fucking cock measuring contest. Yo, I've got 265s on mine. Yeah, but your fucking car is sitting like a wheelbarrow, mate. We want these tires tucked up under those guards. We want it low, and ride height is more important than width of tire. I'm putting that down there. I'd rather have pizza cutters and have the thing on its balls, and it's always going to look better. Where's the Dart? The Dart's got like the skinniest tires, but it's dumped and it looks sick. So anyway, I'm getting carried away. But what I'm saying is, I think at an absolute minimum, we're going to get a 245 on these 8.5s, sitting up under there really nice. I think we'd probably comfortably get a 255, but the tire ratio is very hard to find. So I've had not much luck trying to find 255s in the profile I need. So we might be up to a 245. And I think a 265 we might be struggling. We might get it, but we might be struggling. I don't want to be scraping. I'm not going to be chasing size if it's going to mean losing ride quality. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to keep chipping away and let's see where we get. Okay, hopefully you guys are enjoying the mini tub video on the UC Torana. Real quickly, let's have a look at some merch. Last week we brought back the Iron Empire Hurst shifter tees. They are available with a new pocket print on the front. Also, the Judge are back as well. These both are available in t-shirts and hoodies. So jump on the online store and grab one of those. It's getting cool coming into winter, so yeah, I've stocked up on hoodies. Also, we have some Hurst shifter bucket hats if you are into that sort of thing. That's all. Let's keep going. Okay, so everything you guys have just seen up until right now in this video was actually filmed almost a year ago. So typical, I start a project, I don't finish it. But the good thing about doing this job the way I've chosen to do it is that the car never left the streets. I chose to do the mini tub because it's not going massive amount of work. Obviously splitting the tub and shifting it over, re-welding it back up, and then making it all sealed up again, put the wheel back on, and then you are driving again. So basically we've been cruising this thing around off and on for the last nearly 12 months with one big tub and one small tub. But no one would ever know, so why not? It's not taking the car off the road, it's not making the car non-drivable, which is the biggest killer of project cars or classic cars, is when you dig into something and you don't get the job done. So that's the way I chose to do it. Now we're going to try and tackle this other side. Anyway, I'm not going to cover as much this time around because it is the exact same process all over again, only on the other side. Let's get stuck into it, see if we can get these tubs all wrapped up so that next time we can get stuck into some more fun stuff like fatter tires, shorter diffs, and hopefully getting rid of a very annoying vibration through this car. Okay, so we finally finished off the rear section, welded up that split. I've now thrown a bit of fiberglass filler in here, buzzed that all down with the orbital. Super easy, super unfussy, but honestly, Ray Charles could do the bodywork in an wheel arch and you'd never know. Like, it's going to be totally fine. And the inside is looking pretty schmick as well. Just threw a bit of filler on the guard that I did fucking last year. And yeah, I'm literally ready just to two-pack this. I want to put some two-pack filler down before we use the stone guard. I want that to seal right off so no weather can get to the bare metal. So what I'm going to do is use some two-pack filler. Of course, I'm going to go over some etch primer, and I'm just going to do this with a throwaway brush it on, and in the morning we can sand it down. I don't want to be spraying two-pack here and Dutch the shed out. So we'll just brush a little bit on, and yeah, we'll be good to go. So it's the next morning now. We've given this two-pack a chance to dry overnight. Given it a quick scuff, and I've also brushed in a little bit of this this stone guard into all the crevices. You want to use a seam sealer, which I don't have any at the moment, so I'll go in and brush that in later. That's not a big deal. I just want to get this stuff on so the finish looks nice and factory, nice and clean, and it'll just hide everything that we've done. One thing you want to bear in mind, if you ever buy this stuff, you want to just buy it and use it, because I've bought this stuff in the past, like this seam sealer, anything in a tube. If you want to buy it and put a bit of stock away, if you don't use it in the first sort of 6 to 12 months, it's ruined anyway. So, that's how it should work. Cool. So I didn't have to go too apeshit with the masking, because I'd already done down the side of this with stone guard. So obviously just had to blow in those little sections. And once that dries, it's gonna look absolutely perfect. You'll never know that I've been there. All right, so we've finally wrapped up the mini tubs on the UC Torana. Absolutely stoked with how this thing has come out. I threw the 245 on it underneath just for shits and giggles. Obviously, it is swimming in there, but we know it's going to be a different story once it's actually fitted to a rim. We can't do any of that until I start doing something with this new diff, because obviously they won't fit on there with the diff that's currently in place. So that will be on an upcoming episode. But so far, if I can get this thing looking somewhat similar to what we got right now with a 245. Even a 245 is going to be a huge step up from a 215. I've got this thing sitting currently about an inch lower than what it was before. I'd love the thing to sit like this. It looks so much tougher. I'm so stoked that we got Andrea's Torana one step closer to the ultimate goal of, you know, the dream car for her. She's had this thing since she started to drive, basically learned to drive in this thing. First car, so to keep this thing going and add some updates that I don't think she'd ever would have thought would have happened is absolutely wicked. And yeah, you'll see all that and more in a future episode of the Iron Empire. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, check out the online store, all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell, and we'll see you on an upcoming episode. Cheers, guys.